Hey everyone, Scott here to discuss Halloween, the 1978 version, starring Donald Pleasance, Jamie Lee Curtis, PJ Soles, and Nancy Loomis, and directed by John Carpenter. Now, when I was very young, I never seen this until this viewing, so I'm kind of the newbie on this from the originals, but I've seen the two Rob Zombie Halloween films, and those are the only ones I've seen when it comes to that series. So, I don't know what to expect coming into the series, except I'm the newbie. And I've heard a lot about this as a kid, never seen them to this day. So, let's get into it and see what I think of this so far. I love the theme of this movie. It's so iconic and scary for this movie when it was released in 1978. And John Carpenter doing the music theme to this movie is a perfect choice. Michael Myers, as a 6-year-old in 1963, stabbing your sister Judith on Halloween night, and now in a present 1978, that's where this movie was released. The Myers house in Illinois has become a haunted house, and people think to stay away from the house because there's a boogeyman in there. And I like how they give it a spooky history. It was really well done. Michael gets out of the house of the criminally insane while some woman drives. Dr. Sam Loomis, played by Donald Pleasance, arrived to see Michael. Michael escapes was an incredibly scary sequence. Nice job, Carpenter. Laurie Strode, played by the Scream Queen herself, Jamie Lee Curtis, and the reason I say Scream Queen is because of these movies. And I like her in this movie as a protagonist. She's quite the protagonist we need in horror slash slasher movies, or maybe better than any of the protagonists in these series. I like how these three kids had to pick on one kid and say, "The boogeyman is coming. He's gonna get you. He's gonna get you. He's gonna get you." And it's very haunting if you're a kid, but I'm against bullying these days, but it was still a terrifying moment of those fuckers. Laurie's friends, Annie, played by Nancy Loomis, or these days, Keys, forgive me if I said that wrong, and Linda, played by PJ Soles, are walking home and Michael driving by them, and one of them says, "Speed kills," and I thought both Annie and Linda and Laurie were dead. Well, not Laurie per se, but I thought Annie and Linda were dead by starting with that scene. And I don't like those two characters for one thing, Annie makes Laurie smoke pot illegally and in front of her father, who is a sheriff, and Linda has sex with a guy, and I thought, yeah, she's fucking dead. Michael going around and stalking people is fucking creepy, while with a mask on and drives around following Laurie and Annie is just fucking spooky. It doesn't make a goddamn sound, and I'm like, Jesus, this guy is the master of body language. While Laurie is babysitting Tommy and Annie is babysitting Lindsay, and the dog Lester, who's a German Shepherd, and when Michael stabs Lester a few minutes later, I thought, aw, poor doggy. And Tommy and Laurie, which watch horror movies on Halloween night, for example, the 1950s version of The Thing from Another World. And Annie spills butter on her clothes, and Lindsay just sits there in front of the TV acting like a spoiled little bitch. And it's a typical horror movie slasher movie cliche, but Friday the 13th and Nightmare on Elm Street made that into a cliche. I must say right now. Annie gets killed in her own car while Michael is in the back seat, killing her ass off, and she makes a funny face as she's dying, was absolutely hysterical. And Tommy sees Michael believing he's the boogeyman, carrying Annie into the house, while Lindsay is over at Tommy's house, and she believes him, while Laurie doesn't, and Laurie makes that face looking like, unbelievable, was again hysterical. Linda sneaks off with a guy named Bob, while Annie tries to pick up, I forgot his name. And both Bob and Linda have a sexual intercourse, and the next thing you know, she says, that feels fantastic. And I thought, what a weird thing to say. Maybe it's he made it inside her. Well, no graphic details there. I'm not going to say anything about that because that scares me. And Bob goes getting both himself and Linda a beer, and Michael kills Bob and kills off Linda as well, while Linda tries to call Laurie. Laurie assumes Annie is alive, and there when she died a while ago was a fantastic way of showing off the horror themes of the Masked Man. Oh, that's the one. Laurie finds out Annie, Linda, and Bob are dead and spots Michael, and he tears her sleeve off and manages to escape, and she calls for the neighbors or anyone's help and calls Tommy and wakes him up to get her in the house, and Michael almost stabs Laurie, but she stabs him with the yarn. Well, a needle yarn. And I thought, there's no fucking way you can kill Michael Myers like a snap of a finger. But it's still terrorizing Laurie and Tommy and Lindsay while they're hiding in a closet. And Michael almost had Laurie, but she stabs him with the hanger and still not dead. And attacks her, and Loomis shoots Michael quite a few times and is still alive by the end of this fucking movie. And it can't end in either the endless amount of sequels plus 2 reboots, or we could end on the new movie leading up to this one 40 years later. And when we get to the new movie, and I'll discuss if you should watch the other sequels plus the 2 reboots of that Rob Zombie makes, or this and the new movie. Well, I'm going to tell you guys something before I get to my rating. Before I'm going to see the new movie, I'm planning on watching this movie again, so maybe I'll just show my hand now. And on that note, let's end it with the rating. I'll give this movie a 8.6 out of 10. This is a spooky movie, and I love how fucking freaky it is, and John Carpenter should be credited to this series. And the new and original movie, Jamie Lee Curtis is a fantastic slasher protagonist, and I had fun watching this. And I'll watch it one more time before I see the new movie, like I said before. So I'd like to thank you guys for joining me, and next week I will be back with Halloween 2, the original Halloween 2, before we get to the Rob Zombie one. And until next time, trick or treat, smell my feet, give me something good to eat.